dear adventurers. It's your dozing knight, here once again by the glow of the fire. The rain hasn't stopped. It's softened into that gentle rhythm that makes the night feel endless. The world outside sleeps, but the continent never truly rests. Last time, we walked through the lands of death and decay, places haunted by the hunger of ghouls, the wails of wraiths, and the whispers of the cursed. But tonight, we journey deeper, beyond the tombs and battlefields, beyond the reach of steel and silver, into a different kind of darkness, a darkness that breathes, that tempts, that remembers. This is the realm of the eternal, of beings older than kingdoms, stronger than curses, and far more human than they care to admit. Vampires who walk among men beneath moonlight and wine. Creatures born of magic and grief. Werewolves that howl not out of rage but sorrow. And ancient gods that linger beneath the mire, waiting to be remembered by those foolish enough to whisper their names. But this part of the tale isn't only about monsters. It's about belief, the kind that bends the world into strange shapes. It's about the faith that drives men to pray to devils, the love that turns to obsession, the desire that becomes ruin. And it's about the quiet, terrible beauty of those who dwell between life and legend. So sit closer to the fire. You'll want its warmth for this part of the story. The wind has turned cold, and the mist outside carries the scent of something old, something that watches from the corners of the night. If you listen closely, you might hear it, the soft lilt of a song drifting across the marsh, a melody sung by something too beautiful to be kind. Yes, we begin again, where the shadows wear human faces, and love and death share the same voice. Welcome to the second chapter of our long, sleepless journey, Blood and Belief. There are many kinds of vampires in the world of The Witcher, from the mindless beasts that haunt graveyards to the refined predators that walk among us unnoticed. But none are as deadly or as deceptive as the Bruxa. Forget the folk tales of pale nobles hiding from sunlight, warded off by garlic and crosses. Those belong to simpler worlds. The Bruxa fears none of these things. She walks freely beneath the sun, moves unseen in the crowd, and wears beauty like a weapon. She most often appears as a dark-haired woman, striking and graceful, with a voice as soft as silk. Men see her and forget caution. Women glimpse her and feel both envy and dread. But behind that face lies something ancient, a predator of terrifying power and elegance. There's an old hunter's warning whispered in the forests. If you hear many birds sing at once, turn back. You've entered a Bruxa's domain. Bruxae are higher vampires, born not of this world, but brought here during the conjunction of the spheres. They are cunning, patient, and infinitely strong, capable of tearing a man apart before he even realizes he's in danger. Their most infamous weapon is their voice. A single shriek from a Bruxa can send shockwaves through the air, knocking a Witcher flat and leaving him gasping for breath. The sound isn't just loud, it's paralyzing, striking deep into the nerves and stealing all sense of balance. Some can even blind their prey with it, turning a hunt into a cruel, taunting game of chase. And the Bruxa loves to play. She doesn't kill for sustenance alone. She kills for the thrill of it, the intimacy of the hunt. A single bruxa can turn an entire village into a feeding ground, draining her victims night after night until only hollow husks remain. Some even keep lovers, living, breathing sources of blood, enthralled by their charm, bound by enchantment. And when the bruxa is sated, she sings. Soft, melodic, otherworldly songs that twist the dreams of those who listen, turning sleep into fevered nightmares. When it comes to fighting one, even witches tread carefully. The bruxa moves faster than the eye can follow, vanishing and reappearing like mist in moonlight. Blades pass through air, and she strikes from the shadows, her laughter echoing all around. To defeat her, a witcher must anchor her to the world with moondust, or trap her within a circle of Yrden, forcing her to stay visible, vulnerable, killable. A coating of vampire oil on a silver blade helps. But even then, the battle is one of endurance and nerve. The short story, A Grain of Truth, from the Last Wish collection, tells of one such encounter, and it remains one of the most haunting tales of Geralt's early days. It reminds us that even monsters can love, and that sometimes love itself can be the cruelest curse. If the bruxa is the noble of her kind, elegant, cunning, and cold, then the alp is her restless sister, similar in grace and allure, yet crueler, hungrier, and somehow sadder. An alp, like the bruxa, takes the shape of a woman, often beautiful enough to walk unnoticed among mortals. But unlike her higher kin, she prefers the quiet intimacy of the night. She slips through windows, gliding over sleeping victims with a tenderness that feels almost loving, until her touch steals your breath. The alp doesn't drain her prey of blood immediately. Instead, she feeds on dreams. Her saliva can induce deep, unbreakable sleep, one filled with nightmares that twist endlessly, each more terrible than the last. When she feeds, she sits astride her victim's chest, pressing down with supernatural weight. Those who've survived speak of waking up gasping, unable to move, their hearts racing as though someone were still there. A cruel reminder that even sleep can be hunted. Alps are most active under the full moon, their presence often marked by strange shadows at the window, or whispers that sound like a lover's voice calling from the dark. They are quick, faster even than most witches, leaping great distances and evading blows with effortless grace. Like bruxae, they can unleash a piercing shriek capable of stunning a man where he stands. Unlike their kin, however, alps cannot vanish completely. Their speed and reflexes are their defense, but once cornered, they fight with vicious ferocity. For a witcher, the same tactics apply. Yrden to bind them, moondust to keep them from shifting their form, and vampire oil to let silver bite deep. But the real danger is not the fight. It's what they leave behind. Victims left pale, hollow, haunted by dreams that never fade. Below the alp, on the ladder of vampiric evolution, are the lesser vampires, creatures like the Fleda and the Echimara. They lack the grace and intellect of their higher kin, but make up for it with brute savagery. The Fleda is a walking nightmare, hairless, fanged, and wide-mouthed. its body twisted into a bat-like horror. It doesn't stalk or toy like the Bruxa. It charges head-on, all teeth and claws, driven by nothing but hunger. Its cousin, the Ekimara, is even worse. A hulking, feral beast whose appetite is endless. It rips, tears, and drinks until nothing remains but shredded flesh and splattered blood. These lesser vampires lack charm or subtlety. They are chaos given flesh, the raw, untamed side of the curse that higher vampires learn to control. But even among witches, there's a grim sort of respect for them. Because at least with Fleda or Ekimara, you know what you're getting. They don't pretend to be anything but monsters. Bruxae may tempt you, Alps may lull you, but the lesser vampires, they simply kill you. Our next creature slithers out from the myths of old, a terror once thought confined to fairy tales and fevered dreams. But in the world of The Witcher, myths have a way of bleeding into truth. This is the basilisk, a draconid, not a true dragon, but deadly enough to be mistaken for one. Forget the stories of a monster that can turn a man to stone with a single glance. The real basilisk doesn't need eyes to kill. Its breath alone is poison. A cloud of venom so thick and corrosive that it can strip flesh from bone in seconds. A basilisk's body is a strange and fearsome fusion, part serpent, part bird, part lizard. It has the beak of a raptor, wings slick with webbed membranes, talons like curved daggers, and scales hard enough to shrug off most blades. When it moves, the air hums with the rustle of its leathery wings and the hiss of its breath. They're territorial creatures, fiercely so. A basilisk will claim a region of rocky hills, old ruins, or dusty caverns as its own, and anything that dares enter its domain becomes prey. Even dragons, it's said, give them a wide berth. Most basilisks prefer warm, arid lands. The red valleys of Zerrikania, the sun-scorched cliffs near the Blue Mountains. But over the centuries, they've adapted. Some have taken to the dank tunnels beneath castles, or the abandoned cellars of ruined keeps, waiting in silence for their next meal. They hunt with patience and precision, blending into the shadows until their target strays too close. Then, with a roar that echoes like cracking stone, they strike. Their wings can parry steel, their venom eats through armor, and their talons tear through anything softer than granite. For a witcher, fighting a basilisk is a deadly dance. Fire works well. The Igni sign burns through their wings, forcing them to the ground, and draconid oil sharpens the edge of silver. Bombs filled with shrapnel can bring them down mid-flight, but one mistake, one moment too slow, and you're done. And yet, despite their danger, basilisks have always drawn hunters, not for glory, but for profit. Their hides, tough and smooth, make some of the finest leather known to man. Their bones fetch a fortune from alchemists, and their venom, once distilled, becomes a potent toxin, or antidote, depending on the brewer's intent. Of course, most who go after a basilisk never return. There's a line from an old witcher's journal that sums it up best. In fairy tales, the way to kill a basilisk is to show it its reflection in a mirror. In reality, it's better to smash the mirror over its head. A grim sort of wisdom, but wisdom all the same. From the caves of stone and poison, we move into the spectral mists, where death itself takes form in fur and flame. These are the Barghests, ghostly hounds that run between worlds, their howls echoing through the veil of night. Legends say they serve as the heralds of the wild hunt, the spectral riders who gallop across the skies, gathering souls for some unknown master. The Barghests run before them, clearing the way, their paws stirring up ashes and ruin wherever they pass. Others claim they are the spirits of the wronged, souls of men who lived cruel lives and found no peace in death, now reborn as beasts of vengeance. Their eyes burn with pale fire, and their jaws drip with ghostlight. Wherever they appear, misfortune follows close behind. In peasant folklore, there's a saying, if you hear paws where no hound should walk, death walks with them. Barghests often manifest in packs, their translucent bodies shimmering faintly in the dark like reflections in black water. They move silently until they don't. When they strike, it's sudden and savage, and their spectral fire can blind or burn anyone foolish enough to fight back. Silver works best against them, as with most wraithborn beings, and coating a blade in spectre oil helps the strikes find purchase. The Quen sign shields against their phantom fire, while Igni can briefly stun them, though never truly harm them. But sometimes, Barghests don't come alone. Their arrival often heralds something far worse, the coming of the Beast of Vizima. The beast is a hellhound of terrible power, a monstrous phantom born from collective sin. In one tragic tale, a small village near Vizima fell under its curse. It was said to be punishment, a reflection of their cruelty, their betrayals, their bloodied hands. No single soul was innocent, and so the beast came to collect what justice could not. With it came the Barghests, countless ghostly hounds that prowled the streets, eyes like lanterns in the fog. They tore through the village each night, and no prayer, no ward, no holy relic could stop them. When Geralt arrived, he found not a mystery, but a choice. Because in the Witcher's world, evil rarely wears a single face. To end the curse, one had to confront not just the monster, but the guilt that summoned it. As the old witches say, the worst beasts are born of men's deeds, not nature's. So if you ever find yourself walking home at dusk, and the air grows still, and you hear the soft pad of unseen paws behind you, don't turn around. If you're lucky, it's just your imagination. If not, the beast has already found you. Few creatures in the Witcher's bestiary are as strange or as misunderstood as the cockatrice. A beast born of nightmare and superstition, it's a fusion of opposites, feathers and scales, bird and serpent, beauty and death. Scholars call it an ornithoreptile, though no one quite knows why. To most witches, it's simpler to just call it what it is, another draconid, meaner than a wyvern and twice as temperamental. Peasant legends say a cockatrice hatches from an egg laid by a rooster and brooded by a toad under the light of a cursed moon. And though most laugh off such tales as drunken rambling, it's unsettling how many of those stories end the same way, with something terrible clawing its way out of the mud. A cockatrice has the body of a reptile, the head and wings of a monstrous bird, and a tail lined with sharp, quill-like spines. Its beak can tear through armor, and its talons slice clean through bone. When it spreads its wings, the sunlight catches the faint shimmer of venom along their edges, proof that the stories of its poisonous nature aren't all myth. They are highly territorial and viciously proud, attacking anything that dares intrude on their nesting grounds, travelers, soldiers, even other monsters. Some witches claim the cockatrice fights less to feed and more to punish intruders, as if aware of its own legend. They hunt with eerie precision. Perched high upon rocky ledges, they wait motionless, their eyes tracking movement far below. Then, with a shriek that splits the air, they dive. Wings cutting through wind, claws first, striking before a blade can be raised in defense. Though smaller than most draconids, a cockatrice's agility makes it lethal. Fire from the igni sign can scorch its wings, forcing it to stay grounded, while draconid oil sharpens the witch's blade enough to pierce its hide. Bombs that burst with shrapnel or shockwaves can disorient it. Though even wounded, it remains unpredictable, thrashing wildly, flinging its tail to keep foes at bay. For all its savagery, the cockatrice has its uses. The quills from its tail make exceptional fletching for crossbow bolts, stronger than goose feathers, sharper when trimmed. Its hide, when properly treated, becomes supple and nearly unbreakable, prized by armorers and noble collectors alike. There's an old saying among merchants who trade in its remains: a cockatrice feather is worth a man's courage, and often costs him it. Perhaps that's why witches alone still hunt them, not for fame, not for fortune, but because some creatures can't be left to nest in the dark for long. From feathered wings and poisoned claws, we descend once more into the soil, into the silent realm of the dead, where bones whisper and hunger never fades. Here dwell the Greyveers, the larger, fouler cousins of the ghoul. If ghouls are scavengers, then Greyveers are butchers. You'll know them when you see them. Their thick hides covered in crusted filth, their skulls marked with jagged bony ridges, and their claws dull but heavy, made for digging through dirt and bone alike. Their tongues, long and worm-like, snake into corpses to suck the marrow from shattered bones. The more rancid the flesh, the sweeter they seem to find it. Greyveers are creatures of corruption. They gather where death lingers, at plague pits, ruined battlefields, or ancient necropolises where the earth itself reeks of rot. Their teeth are coated in a black, sticky venom that seeps into the flesh, rotting it from within. Even a single scratch can fester into death. When a witcher faces one, fire and silver remain the best allies. But Greyveers aren't easily frightened. They charge headlong, their weight and stench filling the air like a suffocating fog. Igni can sear their hides, and necrophage oil helps blades cut deeper through their thick flesh. But even then, they die hard, snarling until their final, rattling breath. Yet the Greyveers are not the worst of their kind. Above them, both in size and in dreadful majesty, rule the Scimitars, the queens of the necropolis. Massive and terrible, Scimitars are rare creatures, but when they appear, they claim entire graveyards as their domain. Ghouls and Greyveers bow before them, gathering in swarms to serve their monstrous matriarch. Their presence transforms the land itself. Flowers wither, animals flee, and even crows avoid the air above their lairs. A Scimitar is ancient hunger given form, an empress of rot. Her breath alone can curdle the air, and her shriek sends even seasoned witches staggering. When she feeds, she devours everything. bone, flesh, and spirit alike. To face one is to fight death itself. A witcher who sees the ground move, who hears the rattle of bones before he smells decay, already knows. He's not dealing with the dead anymore, but with what rules them. There's an old saying among grave diggers and priests: when the grave breathes, the living must hold their breath. So if you ever find yourself walking through an abandoned cemetery and the wind dies, and you feel the earth tremble underfoot, leave your prayers behind. They won't help you here. Among all the strange beings a witcher may face, few inspire as much wonder as they do fear. Not born, not cursed, not natural, but crafted, shaped by human hands and brought to life through magic. These are the golems, silent giants of stone and clay, tireless guardians whose hearts beat only when commanded to. A golem has no soul, no thought, no will of its own. It is creation without conscience, bound by the words that shaped it and the purpose it was given. Some stand watch over crumbling ruins or mage towers long abandoned, their tasks forgotten by time. Yet still they wait, immovable, unblinking, loyal to orders whispered centuries ago. Forged from earth and sealed with runes of power, their bodies are dense, impossibly heavy. Each movement sends tremors through the ground, and their blows can crush a man, armor and all, with a single strike. Fire cannot harm them. Steel bends against them. Even silver, blessed and enchanted, struggles to chip their stony skin. Some scholars say acid can weaken their surface, softening the enchanted shell. But for most, the only true strategy is survival. To dodge, endure, and hope to find the moment when the creature's own power falters. For golems are not endless. Even magic can run dry. There's a story told among witches of a golem left to guard a mage's manor, centuries after its master had turned to dust. The creature still stood by the gates, unmoving, its stone hands clasped around a rusted key. When asked what it guarded, it simply said, "The master's return." And so it waited, a monument to both loyalty and folly. But not all tales of golems are tragic. Some, curiously, are absurd. An old mage once built a golem and brought it to life with a bolt of lightning and the words, "Bring me water." Then, forgetting his spell, he returned to his studies. The golem, obedient as ever, fetched water day and night, filling pots, buckets, barrels, until it flooded not only the mage's house, but the entire city. A costly reminder that power without wisdom is often more dangerous than the monsters witches are hired to slay. When Geralt encountered one such creature in the swamps near Vizima, he revived it the same way it was first made, with lightning drawn from a storm. And when the golem's eyes flared with light, he couldn't help but grin and whisper, "It's alive." A quiet homage, perhaps, to another creation from a different age, and a reminder that even in a world of monsters, it's mankind's own inventions that often echo loudest. From the still weight of stone, we turn now to the wild, devouring heart of flame itself, to a creature born not of flesh, but of fire and fury, the Ifrit. To most, it's a myth, a story whispered by mages too afraid to admit their mistakes. But for those who have seen one, there is no mistaking it. An Ifrit is not a beast in the ordinary sense. It is fire given thought, a living inferno that obeys no law but its own hunger. Legends say it hails from the plane of fire, a realm where everything burns forever, where even the air itself is alive with heat and rage. In that endless blaze, the Ifrit was born, not by birth, but by will, a consciousness shaped from the firestorm. Only the most powerful sorcerers dare attempt to summon one. And even then, few survive the ritual. The binding requires perfect precision. One wrong rune, one broken circle, and the summoner is reduced to ash before the last word leaves their tongue. When bound correctly, the Ifrit can serve as a weapon, a guardian of flame, a tool of destruction. But make no mistake, it serves only under protest. The moment the binding weakens, it turns upon its master, reducing everything nearby to glowing embers. To face an Ifrit in battle is to stand against the fury of the elements themselves. It towers over men, a figure of molten fire, its form shifting like the heart of a forge. With every movement, sparks rain from its limbs, and the ground itself blackens under its steps. Steel melts at its touch, arrows turn to ash mid-flight, and even silver blades glow red-hot after a single strike. For witches, combat with such a being is not about strength, it's about patience. The Quen sign can shield against the heat for a moment, while Ard can disrupt the creature's form just long enough for a well-placed strike. But fire cannot truly be slain. When its body collapses, its spirit retreats to the flames, waiting, smoldering, until some fool calls it back. An old mage once wrote, "To command an Ifrit, one must first understand the nature of fire. To understand fire is to love what destroys you." Few who've seen an Ifrit would argue. For all its terror, there is something mesmerizing about it. The dance of light, the hypnotic roar, the raw, living energy of creation itself. It is a reminder that the line between power and ruin is always thin and always burning. So if you ever see a flame that burns too still, too bright, walk away. Because not every fire warms. Beneath the wetlands and the swamp's black mirror, where the air hums with flies and the earth squelches with each step, there thrives a nightmare of claws, chitin, and endless hunger. The Kikimora. These are insectoids, hive-minded horrors that burrow deep beneath the surface, carving out tunnels and caverns vast enough to swallow entire villages. The deeper the nest, the older and deadlier the colony. At its heart rules the Kikimora queen, massive and ever-breeding, her egg sacs pulsing in the dark, her whispers echoing through the tunnels like a hive's heartbeat. Around her swarm the workers, small, skittering things with too many legs and too little fear, and the warriors, towering creatures armored in chitin plates, their eyes like cold amber glass. Where the Kikimora walks, silence follows. Even the birds won't linger above a nest. The soil cracks underfoot, littered with bones, mute testimonies of those who strayed too near. The workers are the first to appear. They move quickly and in great numbers, scavenging the forest floor and dragging corpses, human and animal alike, back underground to feed the brood. Individually, they're weak, but together, they're death in motion. A witcher who disturbs their tunnels soon learns what that means. The ground trembles, the earth splits, and the swarm bursts upward in a frenzy of claws and mandibles. And then there are the warriors. Larger, stronger, far more cunning. They guard the nest, direct the workers, and will fight to the death if their queen is threatened. Their shells are thick as plate armor, their venom caustic enough to eat through steel. A single strike from their forelimbs can split a man clean in two. Witches say that if you feel the soil shift beneath your boots and the buzzing grows louder, you're already too close. The only hope is to kill the warrior commanding the swarm. Without its leader, the workers scatter in confusion, retreating to the safety of their tunnels. But if the queen herself is near, there's no escape. She will not stop. She cannot. The Igni sign can burn through their chitin. An insectoid oil helps the silver blade bite deeper. But even then, the fight is brutal and short-lived. The venom of a kikimora raises a witch's toxicity faster than any known poison. A cruel trade for every cut landed. In the quiet after battle, witches often note how still the forest becomes. The hum fades, the air clears, and only the smell of scorched earth remains. But deep below, the queen stirs, laying new eggs, rebuilding her hive. Because the kikimora cannot truly be wiped out. You don't kill the hive, you just delay it. Deep in the swamps of Velen, where the mist never lifts and the trees twist like the ribs of a dying god, there lives a trio of witches so ancient and cruel that even the monsters of the bog whisper their names with dread. They are the crones of Crookback Bog, the ladies of the wood. 3 sisters, ageless and grotesque, ruling over the swamp as gods once ruled over kingdoms. To the people of Velen, they are both protectors and devourers. The peasants fear them, yet they offer sacrifices, coins, charms, bits of food, and sometimes children. In exchange, the crones promise blessings, fertility, and safety from the horrors that haunt the marsh. But in truth, nothing they give is ever free. Their names, whispered like prayers and curses, are Bruis, Weavis, and Wispus. Each embodies a different cruelty, a different kind of hunger. Bruis, bloated and corpse-like, wears a basket upon her head and chains about her neck, said to symbolize the women drowned as witches in centuries past. Weavis, long-limbed and hideous, carries a noose around her throat, the mark of those who were hanged for their craft. And Wispes, burned and blackened, bears the scars of fire, her body forever twisted like the pyres that once consumed her kind. Together, they weave the fate of all who enter their domain. They see through eyes not their own, speak through enchanted tapestries, and listen through the ears they've taken as tribute from those foolish enough to bargain with them. Some say they were once the daughters of an ancient being called She Who Knows, a goddess of wisdom long forgotten. But the sisters betrayed her, bound her spirit and claimed her power, twisting knowledge into corruption. Others believe they've simply always been, born from the swamp itself, its decay, its madness, its dark, endless life. To meet them is to feel the weight of centuries pressing down upon your soul. They smell of blood and damp earth, their voices layered like whispers in a dream, too many, too close. They will smile, offer you tea, and speak kindly as they measure your worth. And when they've decided you've nothing left to give, they will devour you, body and soul. When Geralt and Ciri crossed paths with the ladies of the wood, the encounter was as unforgettable as it was horrifying. The bog seemed to breathe around them, every shadow alive, every sound a secret. For all their power, though, the crones are not gods. They are bound to their swamp, just as their victims are bound to them. Their immortality depends on the land, on the cycle of blood, an offering that feeds it. But perhaps the cruelest truth of all is this: the villagers still pray to them. They still light candles, still whisper thanks, still send their children into the mire. Because in a world as cruel as the continent, even monsters can seem merciful, if they keep the greater horrors at bay. So if you ever hear a song drifting over the marsh, sweet, soft, and sung in 3 voices, turn back. The crones love when travelers listen. They say your ears make such fine gifts. And so, our second journey through the mists comes to an end. The rain outside has slowed to a steady whisper, and the fire burns low, its light flickering against the walls like old memories. It feels quieter now, but not empty. The kind of quiet that follows revelation. We've wandered through haunted manors and moonlit fields, stood beneath the gaze of ancient gods, and crossed paths with creatures that blur the line between myth and truth. The Bruxa, singing her sorrow into the night. The Alp, weaving nightmares that taste of love and death. The crones, their laughter rising from the swamp like smoke from a funeral pyre. And through it all, the Witcher walked, silver gleaming, heart steady, eyes tired but unbroken. Every tale we've told here is drenched in belief, the kind that can save or destroy, for what is a curse, if not faith twisted backward? And what are monsters, if not the prayers we never should have whispered? The people of this world cling to their gods, their myths, their fears. They light candles against the darkness, not realizing the light only makes their shadows longer. And yet, there's beauty in that defiance, isn't there? That fragile hope, trembling like a flame in the storm. The Witcher knows this. He doesn't fight to banish darkness, only to understand it. Because every wraith, every vampire, every creature clawing for a piece of life once had a story. And sometimes, that story is closer to ours than we'd like to admit. So as we close the book on this chapter, let the echoes fade. Let the marsh grow still, the songs of the crones die out in the fog, and the night return to its endless watch. The monsters we've met will sleep again, for now. But not all tales end in horror. Beyond the blood and belief, there lies another part of this world, softer, older, and alive with quiet magic, where the forest hums with unseen laughter, and small spirits guard the hearts of forgotten homes. That is where we'll go next. The final stretch of our journey, where monsters become myths and myths become guardians. So rest your mind, adventurer. Let the night's weight fall away. When next we meet, the fire will burn gentler, and the air will smell of pine instead of blood. Sleep well until the forest calls.